Hello, welcome to today's episode of 3D Drawing for your model railway. We're going to continue on the crane again today. What we're looking at is drawing the mounting point here underneath for the bogie here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make sure this radio button's checked on. And I'm going to create a sketch on the base surface of the chassis here. I'm then going to project the bogey's outside dimension framed onto that surface. Just selecting the top surface here to project, click on OK, and then that should project onto the bottom here. So if we come into the bodies, turn the bogey off, you can see it's now projected that sketch dimensions. Okay, so now I'm going to create a center point circle. I'm going to find the midpoint of the bogey in both directions. I'm just going to create a circle that would fit on the inside here. Probably going to go like 8mm. And we're going to use that as our boss that the bogey will initially sit on. Just define that so it's all centered up, and then we can extrude it. We're just going to come down by 1mm. Make sure this radio. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is create a sketch on that base surface we just created. I'm going to use a center point circle. I'm going to create a center pin of 3.75mm. And then we're going to extrude that bogey by 1.5mm. And the bogey will sit on this larger surface. This will then come through the bogey, and we'll drill a little hole in here on this surface, create another center point circle, and we'll do this as 1.75mm. And this will be where our center pin will locate to hold the bogey in position. We'll drill this up to that top surface there. A circle that would fit on the inside here. Probably going to go compute. That'll be our bogey mounting pin then. Okay, so now we've got our bogey mounting point. The next thing we need to do is create a pivot on the bogey that will connect to this. So we turn that bogey back on. You can see how that's now sitting inside. What we're going to do is we're going to do a offset plane from that surface. We're just going to bring it down and offset it by 0.5mm. In fact, I might do actually just a little bit less. I'm going to go 0.2mm because there isn't a lot of room up here for any movement going upwards, and we're essentially drawing a body that's going to connect to the bogey, which will then just rub on this surface here. So we create a sketch on that surface. I'm not sure what's that position, but we'll capture position, whatever it is. And then we'll create a rectangle. What we want is the rectangle to be out of the way of any of the wheels here. So we're probably going to have to be somewhere in this middle section here. And we'll constrain to the edges, both sides, and then we'll define to each corner there. You can see this actually might be an issue because of the size of the wheels here. Let's go 5.5mm there. 5.5mm there. And what we might have to do is make this center boss smaller. Or take a chunk out. Yeah, that'll be a better option. We take a chunk out here for the wheels. That'll be what we'll do. Okay, so now we've got that connected. We're going to extrude that down slightly. 2mm will be too much. We're only going to want to come to the end of that pin there. And we're going to tell it initially to be a new body. I don't want it to connect to that should have been connected to that. I don't want it to connect to the bodies here. So we'll get it to join to hopefully body 1. That's made a mess. Let's have a look. Let's go back, forward, see what happens. Just a bit buggy there. I don't know what it's done. Don't know what it's done there. That's just been a bit buggy for some reason. But that's looking okay there. So let's just go back on these. That extrusion there, I think, is the issue. That should have been, yeah, a join there. Let's turn the bogey off now, get the body on. Let's see if that's right. Let's join that. There we go. That's better. So what happened is this has created a new body here. So we've just gone back in the history, edited the feed, turned that back to joining this body here. Okay, so now we've got the bogey. We've got to drill a hole out of the bogey that's the same diameter as the hole here for the bogey, but slightly larger. So what we can do for that is create a sketch on that surface there from the bogey, and we want it to be offset slightly from this boss, which isn't showing up. Not an issue. Again, what we can do is go project include. We want to project that line. Okay. If we go back into our sketch, it hasn't done it, so create. Let's try again. Project include, project geometry for that. Click on OK. So we've now got that on that sketch. We can now do offset from that circle. We want it to be slightly larger because it needs a bit of play to be able to move. So we're 0.3 millimeters. Okay, and if we turn off the main body, we can then select everything in that circle and then extrude that to the other side. We've now got that center boss circled out with a little bit of play. We've gone for 0.3 millimeters bigger, which is going to give us about 0.6 millimeters in total because you'll have 3 on each side. Hopefully that should be enough with the swell in the resin, but it will need to be tested just to make sure. And if it is slightly too small, you can just run a little bit of a drill through there to help that out. Okay, I'm now going to help these be a little bit stronger on the side here because that's not a lot either side. So I'm just going to, let's turn off the body and we'll turn off the crane body so we can just look at the bogey now. I'm going to create a small rectangle just on this surface here that's going to protect the narrowness in that area. Just going to use the midpoint constraint to constrain those, and we'll define the length. We'll go 4.5 millimeters. There'll be enough room here for the wheels either side. And we're going to extrude not a lot, maybe just 1 millimeter, just to give it a bit more meat either side here, be a bit more strong. Okay, and we'll do the same on this side, so we'll create a sketch on that surface, slice through, same rectangle, do the midpoint, millimeters and extrude 1 millimeter. Make sure that's all joined. Click on OK. Don't know if that's matching that. Yeah, so that's just giving it a little bit more meat in this area, so it's not quite so brittle. You could diagonal these off here if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave it as it is there. And I think what we might have to do is, to allow the wheels to fit in this area, we're going to have to take out a little chunk. So we're going to create a sketch here, and I'm just going to remove, say, 2.5 millimeters. Oh, no. 1.5 millimeters in that direction by 2.5 millimeters in that direction. I'll do the same on the other side here. And just extrude all of these. Way through to the other side. And those recesses there, just so there's enough room in this area for the wheel to not be interfering with it. That should work okay. If we need to make it a little bit stronger, what you could do is just extrude these a little bit up here, but I think that should be okay because it's still got 2 millimeters in the center there. But we'll have a look. Obviously, we're going to have to test this once we print it out. But that's how we do that bogey. Obviously, you're then going to need to draw a center pin here, which is just going to go up into the center circle hole in the middle of the body here, this hole, and it's got to be larger than the outside of this circle, which won't be an issue to draw. It'll be a 2-minute job to draw that pin. Okay, so to draw that, simply create an offset plane from that top surface. We're just going to go 0.1 millimeters, just so we're not touching. We're obviously creating a new body here, so we're going to create a body off of that surface here. Circle using the center point. We're going to go initially a larger circle. It's not going to go over the edges here, because if it comes over here, then you're going to have issues with catching on things. But it's just got to be big enough here. So we're going to go for 6 millimeter top diameter. We're going to extrude. Actually, wait a minute. Before we do that, we'll create the center pin. So we've got 1.75 millimeter middle there. We're just going to create a circle. In the middle is 1.5 millimeter. Okay, so that pin is going to extrude into the hole, and I'm just going to go 1.5 millimeters. Okay, and I'm going to glue this in afterwards. So that's going to go up 1.5 millimeters. Turn that sketch back on. This one. Sketch 74. Just select the outer and the insert profiles, and then extrude. I'm going to come down 1 millimeter to give it a little bit of meat there. Click on OK. And turn that sketch off, which turns off, as you see all the sketch markings here, turn them off. So now we should have an extra body here. We'll just go in and rename that. Pivot. So we've now got the main body, bogey, and the pivot pin there. Hope you've enjoyed today's episode. So we've just managed to draw this bogey mounting point and the pivot pin. I'm thinking that we may have to do something similar in this area here for the other end of the chassis. Been talking to a couple of mates, and we were sort of the agreement that it might be a bit of an issue getting this rigid frame to go around corners. So we were thinking maybe turn this into a bogey and have like a Kobo type arrangement. So when we go to draw the jacking points on each side here, what I'm going to do is draw them as separate bodies. We'll initially test this, just print this out as it is, test it, see how it works. If it works fine, then we'll add the mounting points on, the jacking points as part of the body. If it doesn't, then I will be turning this into a bogey. So I hope you enjoyed watching today's lesson. If you have, please press that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.